Arriving in Canada. When you receive a letter from CIC informing you your work permit is approved, you can start preparing for the trip to Canada. First thing to do is to contact your Canadian employer and inform him or her that your work permit is approved. At the same time, you can discuss with the employer what they suggest. What would be the best time to come to Canada and start working? These are some of the things to know before you arrive in Canada. Number 1, accommodation. Try to arrange at least temporary accommodation before you arrive in Canada. There are many Facebook groups and internet forums where you can inquire about renting a room before you find another, more suitable permanent living place after you arrive. If that does not work, you can stay in a hostel for a month or so. They charge much less than the regular hotels. In the accompanying PDF file, you can find some useful links if you decide to find a hostel in Canada. Canadians usually rent apartments starting with the first of the month, which means ideally you will arrive in Canada 1 or 2 weeks before the end of the month. So when you find an apartment for rent, you won't have to wait a whole month before you move in. Renting an apartment can be a challenge for a foreign worker who is new to Canada because Canadian building managers usually want to check prospective tenants' credit record to make sure they will pay their rent on time. Newcomers to Canada do not have credit records, so I suggest that you ask your Canadian employer to give you a letter confirming the first day of work and your salary or hourly wage so that your landlord can see you will be able to pay your rent. When you move into your new apartment, most likely you won't find any furniture in the apartment. It will be an empty apartment with a stove and fridge. That's all. Each apartment building usually has washing machines in the basement. That is where you can wash your clothes. Before you move in, you and your landlord, usually that is the building manager, will sign a tenancy agreement, and in your agreement it will indicate how much you have to pay for rent and how much for security deposit. Security deposits are usually 1/2 of the rent amount. So if your rent is $1,600, your security deposit will be $800. When you move out, your security deposit, sometimes called damage deposit, will be refunded if you leave your apartment in good shape. This means before you move in, you will have to pay rent for the full month and security deposit as well. Rents in Canada are often paid using checks. Your building manager may accept cash once or twice, but chances are after that they will expect that you pay your rent by check. Here in British Columbia, when you move into your new apartment, you will also have to call BC Hydro and ask them to connect your power supply. Similar situation is in other provinces as well. Be careful when you respond to apartment rental ads on the websites such as Kijiji or Craigslist. There are many scams linked to apartment rentals. For example, the building manager shows you the apartment, takes 1 month's rent and security deposit, signs agreement with you, and later it turns out that was not the building manager at all, and your money is lost. Number 2, money. Well, you don't have any checks. How can you pay by check? With your passport and work permit, you can open a bank account, and at that time you can order a booklet of checks. Since it may take a week or so before you get your new checks in the mail, you may want to ask the bank teller for 1 or 2 temporary checks just to pay your rent. Canadian employers pay their employees twice a month. However, expect that your first paycheck may be delayed for a week or 2. For that reason, it is a good idea to have a credit card with you so that you can pay for food and transportation in case you run short on cash before your first paycheck. Your employer will also deposit your paycheck directly into your bank account, so opening a bank account as soon as possible is a good idea. Hydro, telephone, and the internet access can be paid through online banking. Number 3, food. In many, if not most situations, foreign workers arrive in Canada alone, and after they settle in, they bring their families too. Usually, first to arrive is a husband, and after a month or 2, his wife and his children join him. If you plan on living alone for several months after your arrival, it would be very useful if you knew how to cook for yourself. Eating in restaurants every day would be very expensive. Eating fast food every day would not be a good idea either. Every Canadian city has several fast food restaurants such as McDonald's, Subway, etc. Tim Hortons is a uniquely Canadian fast food restaurant. You can certainly eat there for a week or so, but eventually you will have to buy some pots and pans, some groceries, and start cooking your meals yourself. Food supplies such as rice, bread, milk, fruits, and vegetables are sold in big supermarkets and in small grocery stores. Prices may vary significantly, so it would be a good idea to ask some of the local people for advice where to shop for groceries. For example, here in Vancouver, many people shop at Costco because their prices are often 50% lower than in regular supermarkets. Costco charges around $50 yearly membership fee. Learn how to cook some basic dishes before you arrive in case you don't already know how to cook. Number 4, medical insurance. Canadian citizens and permanent residents of Canada have access to the Universal Canadian Healthcare System. Doctors' visits are free. Medications are not 100% free, but they are affordable. Foreign workers can apply for provincial healthcare coverage, but only after they have been in Canada for 3 months. Application can be sent sooner than 3 months. However, your coverage will become active after 3 months. It is recommended that you buy some type of private health insurance for those first 3 months. This is especially important if you, for example, drive to work or work in a job where you can be easily injured, for example, in the construction industry. Healthcare services are very expensive for those who do not have provincial healthcare coverage. Another thing to keep in mind is that you ask your doctor in your home country to write a letter providing your Canadian doctor with relevant information regarding your health and possibly medications you are taking. For example, you do not want to stop taking medication for high blood pressure only because you do not have local healthcare coverage in Canada for 3 months. Dental work is very expensive in Canada, and it is not covered by the basic provincial healthcare plan. It would be a good idea to make sure all your teeth are in good shape before you arrive in Canada. Number 5. Transportation. For a couple of months, you will be able to drive with the driver's license from your own country. However, eventually you will have to replace it with a Canadian driver's license. Each province is responsible for issuing their own driver's licenses. Check the motor vehicle branch website in your province for information on how to obtain Canadian driver's license. If your driver's license was obtained in one of a small number of foreign countries, you can simply exchange it for a Canadian driver's license. For all other countries, you will have to take and pass knowledge and road test before you get Canadian driver's license. Prices of the Canadian used cars can be found on this website. Link to this website and other websites mentioned here is in the PDF file you downloaded with the videos. Decent used car will cost around $8,000 or more. Those cars that you may buy for $3,000 or $4,000 will probably cost a lot to maintain. Monthly car insurance payment will depend on the car you drive, but it is likely to be more than $150 per month. Reliable public transportation is available in big cities like Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal. If your workplace is not far from your home, you may even purchase a monthly pass for $98 to $177 in British Columbia, for example, and use public transportation to get to work and back home. Number 6. Communication. Everyone carries a smartphone nowadays. There are 2 different systems for mobile phones in Canada: CDMA and GSM. 2 GSM bands, 3 UMTS bands, and 9 LTE bands. And they operate in the 800, 850, and 1900 megahertz frequency range. You can use this website to check if your current cell phone would work in Canada. There are several major cell phone operators in Canada, and several of them offer budget plans which may even include some internet data in addition to basic cell phone services like voice and SMS messages. Expect to pay at least $30 per month for cell phone use.